I don't care who you think you are. You need to leave my store right now, or I'll call security and have you thrown out." That voice didn't come from a passerby, a customer, or even someone who'd lost their temper. It came from Patricia Whitman, the store manager directed at a woman who, by all accounts, didn't look out of place in the elegant Beverly Hills jewelry shop. But to Patricia, Diana Mitchell didn't look like the kind of person who belonged there. Diana stood her ground, her navy blazer crisp, her posture steady, but her hands, they trembled. Not with fear, but with restraint. With fury she was trying to keep inside. Her eyes, though, told the whole story. They blazed, and for a moment, the entire store went still. Because you could just feel it. There was something about Diana that commanded the air around her. Like a storm was building, and everyone else was too afraid to move. Patricia, oblivious to the danger she was dancing with, pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police. You look like a thief." That was it. Diana's hand stopped shaking. She pulled out her own phone, calm, controlled. "Go ahead," she said. "Call them. But I'm making a call too." She wasn't bluffing, not even close. Because Patricia was about to find out who Diana Mitchell really was. And let's just say she picked the wrong woman to try and humiliate. Before we get deeper into this story, if you believe everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, regardless of what they look like, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Drop the word respect in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. This one's going to hit hard. Now, who is Diana Mitchell? She's 42, black, brilliant, and the founder and CEO of Luminous Designs, one of the most successful luxury jewelry brands in America. Her company operates 47 stores across 12 states. Total annual revenue, $180 million. Her designs are worn by celebrities on red carpets, featured in high-end fashion magazines, and her engagement rings, they're the dream for half of Hollywood's elite. She's been on Forbes' list of America's richest self-made women for 8 straight years. But here's the part most people don't know. Despite all that wealth, Diana still drives her 2003 Honda Civic. Yeah, seriously. When people ask her why she hasn't upgraded, she always smiles and says, "It's a waste of money. This car gets me where I need to go. And every time I look at it, I remember where I came from." That Civic. It's not just a car. It's her anchor, her reminder. Every morning, Diana starts her day the same way. Wakes up at 5 a.m. sharp. Puts on the same bracelet her grandmother gave her when she was broke and just starting out. And then she decides, totally at random, which of her stores she'll visit that day. No press, no emails ahead of time. No, the CEO is coming buzz. She just shows up. She's not doing it to spy or micromanage. She does it to make sure customers are treated exactly how she wishes she'd been treated back when she was still climbing that mountain. No judgment, no attitude. Just kindness, professionalism, and respect. "I built this company," she once told her employees, "so no one would ever have to feel the way I did when people looked at me like I didn't belong." Now let's talk about that store, the one where all of this went down. Luminous Designs, Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive. Not just another store. This was the store, the flagship, the crown jewel of the empire Diana built. It pulls in $2.3 million a month in revenue. A-list celebrities drop in like it's their neighborhood shop. Longtime Hollywood families, legacy clients, private appointments. This place is the destination. Diana designed every inch of it. Every light is positioned to make the diamonds sparkle just right. The floors, the displays, even the temperature, it's all intentional. Running this palace was Patricia Whitman. Now, Patricia is 38, polished and proud of her Connecticut roots. Think old money vibes, East Coast, boarding school pearls, and tennis clubs. Managing Luminous Designs in Beverly Hills, That wasn't just a job to her, it was a personal brand move. Patricia believed she was elevating the store's clientele. She wasn't shy about curating who she thought belonged in the space. She genuinely felt it was her job to decide which customers were right for the luminous experience. Under her command were three people: Kevin Torres, 26, the assistant manager; smart, observant, respectful; Ashley Chen, 23, an art student turned sales associate who embodied Diana's values in every way; and Marcus Johnson, 45, the security guard, a quiet professional who needed this job more than anyone else in the store. So on this particular day, Diana woke up, put on her bracelet, and climbed into her old Civic. She pulled up on Rodeo Drive, no valet, no fanfare, and stepped into the store she had built with her own two hands. The first thing she noticed wasn't the jewelry. It was that one of the display cases was slightly crooked. She didn't say anything. Not yet. She straightened her blazer, took a breath, touched her bracelet, and walked deeper into the store toward the Aurora collection. Now, the Aurora wasn't just jewelry. It was the masterpiece, a $2 million ensemble of rare diamonds. The centerpiece necklace, $350 or $1,000. Diana adored that necklace. Not because of the price, but because it represented everything her company stood for: craftsmanship, elegance, purpose. She approached the display. That's when Patricia spotted her. Patricia walked over with the fakest friendly smile you've ever seen. Too cheerful, too polished. The kind of smile that masks 100 judgments. "Hi there," she chirped. "Looking for something special today?" Diana, warm and genuine, nodded. "Yes, I'd love to see the Aurora collection." Patricia blinked. Her smile didn't budge, but you could feel her discomfort spike. Aurora wasn't for walk-ins, not for browsers. These were serious pieces for serious clients. "Oh," Patricia said, trying to sound helpful, "those start at $200,000. Diana caught the tone, but let it slide. "I understand," she said gently. "I'd still like to see them." Patricia was stuck now. She couldn't outright refuse, but she also didn't want to waste time. So she probed. "Is it a special occasion?" she asked, as if that would help her steer Diana toward the cheaper section. Diana raised an eyebrow. "Does it matter?" Reluctantly, Patricia unlocked the case, but hovered like Diana was going to snatch something and bolt. Diana leaned in with an expert's eye. She pointed at the necklace and said, "That cut is exceptional. Colombian origin, right?" Patricia nearly choked. How did she know that? Patricia's lips parted, and for a moment it looked like she might ask Diana how she knew that. But instead she just blinked and stammered, Yes, that's right." Diana didn't smile. She didn't smirk. She simply examined the necklace more closely and said, "The clarity's flawless, but the setting could use some refinement. The prongs are just slightly uneven." That was it. That's when Patricia's mask cracked. You could see her ego shift into defense mode. "Our pieces are crafted by master jewelers," she replied stiffly. "I'm sure they are," Diana said evenly. "I just have a sharp eye for detail. I've been in this business for a long time." That's when the front door chimed. In walked Mr. and Mrs. Blackstone, wealthy, white, and longtime customers. As soon as Patricia saw them, her entire energy shifted. The fake politeness vanished, replaced by actual enthusiasm. Mr. and Mrs. Blackstone. What a pleasure, she practically squealed, hurrying toward them like a fangirl. Without so much as a glance toward Diana, she muttered, "Excuse me," and left her standing by the Aurora collection like she was invisible. Diana turned and watched as Patricia swooned over the couple, offering them champagne, guiding them to the soft leather chairs, showcasing piece after piece with the grace and warmth that should have been universal for every customer. She could even hear Patricia saying, "So sorry about the delay. We get all kinds wandering in here." Diana froze. All kinds. It hit her like a punch in the gut. Discrimination wasn't new to her, but never in her own store. never from one of her own employees. Ashley Chen, watching from across the store, had seen the entire thing. She wasn't just a great salesperson, she was a human being. And seeing Diana left hanging like that didn't sit right with her. She stepped forward. "Ma'am," Ashley said kindly, "can I help you with anything?" But before Diana could answer, Patricia snapped from across the room. "Ashley, go organize the back inventory." The tone wasn't just firm, it was a warning. A leash tug meant to keep her in line. Diana noticed. She gave Ashley a soft smile and said, "It's okay, dear. I'll wait." And she did. She stood there alone for 15 full minutes while Patricia continued fawning over the Blackstones. 15 minutes of being completely ignored. No champagne, no chair, no acknowledgement. Just standing there while the woman she paid a six-figure salary pretended she didn't exist. Eventually, Diana walked back toward Patricia. "Excuse me," she said calmly. "I'm still interested in the Aurora piece." Patricia turned visibly irritated. "Look," she said bluntly, "those pieces require a serious financial commitment. Maybe you'd be more comfortable in our fashion jewelry section." Fashion jewelry. That's what Patricia thought was appropriate. The section where items rarely crossed 500. Diana's jaw tightened. "I'd like to purchase the Aurora necklace," she said firmly. Patricia let out a short, sharp laugh. "Right," she said. "I'm going to need to see proof of funds first." Diana blinked. "Excuse me." "You know, credit cards, bank statements, something that shows you can afford it." Diana's heart pounded. "Is that standard policy? For purchases of this magnitude, yes." Lie? Because Diana had just watched the Blackstones handle multiple pieces in the same price range. No proof required. No questions asked. Patricia turned cold. "Get out," she snapped. "You don't even look like someone who can afford that piece. You're probably here to steal it." That was the moment. Diana locked eyes with her. "I won't get out." The words sliced through the room like a blade. Kevin, the assistant manager, had heard enough. He looked up from his paperwork and quickly stepped closer. "Patricia," he began cautiously, "maybe we should—" "Kevin, stay out of this," she barked. Then she turned to Marcus, the security guard. "Escort this woman out. Now." Marcus hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure?" Patricia lost it. "She's a thief and doesn't belong here. Get her out, or you're fired too." The room went silent. Even the classical music felt like it paused to listen. That's when Diana finally moved. Not in rage, in control. "You want to talk about firing people," she said quietly. She pulled out her phone, not to record, but to make a call. And this time, her hand wasn't shaking at all. "Don't you dare record this," Patricia shrieked. "I'm not recording," Diana said. "I'm calling my board of directors." That stopped Patricia cold. "You're what?" Diana's voice shifted. Clear, powerful, sharp. "Sarah, it's Diana Mitchell. Emergency board meeting. Now." The moment she said her full name, everything changed. Ashley gasped so loud it echoed. Kevin stared at her like a puzzle piece had just snapped into place. And Patricia, she froze. Her expression twisted like her brain was trying to catch up with what she'd just heard. Diana Mitchell. Ashley whipped out her phone and scrolled furiously. Within seconds, she found the latest company newsletter. And there it was, Diana's face on the cover, smiling beneath the headline. CEO Spotlight Building Dreams One Store at a Time. Kevin looked over Ashley's shoulder and paled. He finally realized just who was standing in their store. Meanwhile, Diana kept talking into the phone like it was just another board meeting. "Yes, I'm at the Beverly Hills location. There's been a serious problem. Discrimination, harassment, complete violation of our values. Customers had stopped pretending to shop. They were openly watching, phones out, cameras rolling." Ashley quietly showed Kevin the newsletter. His face went from pale to ghostly. Patricia just stood there, silent, still holding the keys to a display case she had no idea she'd never open again. I'll hold while you get everyone on the line, Diana said, her voice still calm. Then she lowered the phone and turned to Patricia. What do you know about Luminous Design's founding principles? Patricia blinked. What? Diana reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Founder, CEO, Diana Mitchell. Patricia stared at it, her whole body trembling now. This isn't... You can't be. Diana stared her down. Can't be what, Patricia? Successful, wealthy. The owner of the store you just said was yours. And just like that, Patricia realized she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Patricia's lips moved, but no words came out. Her eyes were locked on the business card that still trembled between Diana's fingers like a judge's gavel. I didn't know, Patricia whispered. Her voice was hollow now, deflated, the confidence and condescension gone, replaced with panic. Diana didn't flinch. She didn't shout or raise her voice. She didn't need to. You didn't want to know, she said evenly. You saw what you wanted to see, and you treated me accordingly. Patricia's hands trembled as she tried to find her footing. I never meant. You meant every word, Diana cut in. Every look. Every decision. You meant it. The room stayed quiet. All the phones, still filming all the bystanders, completely still. And then something surprising happened. The Blackstones, the couple Patricia had fawned over for 15 minutes, quietly stood up. Without a word, they gathered their things and left the store. They didn't want to be part of what they now clearly understood was a disaster. A display of blatant discrimination unfolding in real time. Diana turned back toward her employees, her voice calm but sharp as a blade. Kevin, she said. The young assistant manager stiffened. You recognized something was wrong. You tried to intervene. You used your judgment. That matters. He nodded slowly, eyes wide. Diana shifted her gaze. Ashley, she said, looking at the young woman who had stood up for her when no one else would. You showed care and empathy. You treated a customer like a human being. You lived the values this company was built on. Ashley's eyes welled up with tears. She didn't say a word. She just nodded, overcome with emotion. Then Diana turned to Marcus. Marcus, you followed your instincts. You questioned orders that didn't feel right. You stood your ground. The security guard gave a respectful nod. For a man who was usually stone-faced, his expression showed a rare glimpse of pride. And finally, Diana turned back to Patricia. There was no hatred in her face, only gravity. And you, she said slowly, you violated everything I built this company on. Patricia was sobbing now, her makeup streaked down her cheeks, her perfect exterior crumbling as the weight of her actions hit her. I didn't know who you were, she said through tears. If you had known I was the CEO, Diana interrupted. You would have been kind. But that's the point, Patricia. You're supposed to be kind regardless. To everyone. Patricia dropped her head into her hands. Please, she said quietly. I have children. A mortgage. I wasn't trying to be hateful. I was trying to protect the store's image. Whose image? Diana asked, her voice low and unwavering. Mine or yours. I can do better, Patricia begged. Give me another chance. I'll change. Diana looked at her with the weary eyes of someone who had heard this kind of promise before. From other people, in other places, when it was already too late. You had your chance, she said. You chose not to take it. The security cameras had captured everything. The phones in the store had captured even more. There was no denying what had happened. Diana turned to Kevin. As of now, you're the manager of this location, she said. Kevin's eyes widened in disbelief. He took a small step back, like the words had physically pushed him. Ashley, Diana continued, you're now assistant manager. Ashley gasped. She covered her mouth with her hands, overwhelmed. Marcus, Diana added, you're receiving a commendation for your professionalism and a raise, effective immediately. In less than an hour, the power dynamics in the store had shifted completely. One woman's prejudice had cost her everything. and 3 employees who had simply done the right thing were being elevated to lead. Patricia was still on the floor, crying, unable to process what had just happened. She had walked in that morning believing she ran the most prestigious jewelry store in Beverly Hills, and now she was being dismissed by the woman who actually owned the building, the brand, and every paycheck Patricia had ever received. Diana looked down at her one final time. Her expression wasn't smug. It wasn't angry. It was simply resolute. There was no revenge here, just consequences. And then Patricia tried one more time. She stood up slowly, her hands shaking, her mascara smeared. Diana, she said, using her first name now, as if that familiarity would help her case. Please, I made a mistake. Don't let it ruin my life. Diana turned back to her. For a brief second, her eyes softened, but only for a second. One mistake, she said. This wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern, a reflection of who you really are when no one's watching. I can change, Patricia pleaded. Sensitivity training. I'll take it. I'll do anything. You can't train away prejudice, Diana said. You can only choose not to act on it. And today, you acted on it with every word, every glance. Patricia's legs gave out again, and she sank into one of the chairs she had reserved for the Blackstones. The irony didn't go unnoticed by anyone in the room. Diana turned to face the rest of the store. The customers, the cameras. I want everyone here to know, she said clearly, this is not what Luminous Design stands for. This is not who we are, and this will not happen again in any of my stores. An older man near the front nodded slowly and stepped forward. Ma'am, he said respectfully, the way you handled this, the grace, the strength, it was something to see. You should be proud. Diana nodded softly. I am proud. But I'm only as strong as the people I trust to represent me. And today, 3 of my employees reminded me why this company exists. Kevin stepped forward, still getting used to the title of manager. Miss Mitchell, he said, what would you like us to do for the rest of the day? Diana looked around the store, weighing at the customers, the displays, the polished floors, the Aurora collection still sparkling behind the glass. We stay open, she said simply. We serve every customer with dignity, and we make sure this never happens again. Ashley stood by the counter, still stunned. Her heart was racing, her palms damp, but for the first time since that morning, she allowed herself a smile. Diana, the Diana. Mitchell had just promoted her to assistant manager. The founder of the entire company had seen her, had noticed her, and had rewarded her for doing something she'd always believed in: treating people like people. Meanwhile, Patricia was slowly gathering her belongings behind the counter. Every movement was mechanical. She didn't speak, didn't look up, just placed framed photos and pens into a box she found in the back room, hands trembling as she did it. The noise in the store had returned to a low murmur, customers whispering to one another. Phones still up, still recording. Ashley turned toward Diana hesitantly. What about the media? She asked softly. People are already posting videos online. Some of them tagged the company. Diana looked over, calm as ever. Let them post, she said. Let the world see what happens when you judge someone by their appearance instead of their character. There was something powerful about how she said it. Not bitter, not vengeful, just clear, unapologetic, truthful. She added, let them see what happens when you try to deny service to the person who built the very place you're standing in. Marcus approached quietly from near the front door. Ma'am, he said respectfully, should I escort Miss Whitman out? Diana glanced over at Patricia. The woman's shoulders were slumped. Her eyes were red. She looked nothing like the poised manager who had strutted around that morning. No, Diana said. Let her leave with whatever dignity she still has. Patricia paused halfway through taping up her box. She looked up at Diana, her expression small and broken. I really am sorry, she said. This time there was no panic in her voice, no bargaining, It sounded real, like she finally understood. Diana studied her for a long moment. I believe you, she replied. But sorry doesn't undo the damage you did today. It doesn't change the way you made me feel. It doesn't erase the message you sent to everyone who watched you. Patricia nodded. For the first time all day, she didn't argue, didn't defend herself. She just kept her eyes down, taped up the box, and walked slowly toward the exit. Before she stepped outside, she turned one last time. For what it's worth, she said softly, you've built something incredible here. I'm sorry I wasn't worthy of it. And with that, Patricia Whitman stepped out of the Beverly Hills Luminous Design Store for the last time. The door closed quietly behind her. For a beat, the entire store seemed to hold its breath. Then Diana clapped her hands once sharp and decisive. It brought everyone back to reality. All right, everyone, she said. We've got a business to run. She turned to Kevin. I'll need you to call HR. Confirm Patricia's termination and your promotion. Get the paperwork started. Kevin nodded instantly, pulling out his phone. Ashley Diana continued turning to the still wide-eyed young woman. We'll talk tomorrow about your new responsibilities. Congratulations. Ashley could barely get out a thank you, her throat thick with emotion. Marcus, Diana said, make sure you document everything for our records. You'll be receiving a formal commendation and a raise. Yes, ma'am, Marcus replied, standing tall. It was a surreal moment. Just an hour earlier, everything had been normal. Now the store had a new manager, a new assistant manager, and a fresh chapter ahead. And all of it had come from a moment of injustice that could have destroyed the company's reputation if not for the woman who refused to stay silent. As customers resumed browsing, now more curious than ever, Diana quietly made her way back to the display that had caught her attention earlier, the Aurora collection. It was still slightly crooked. She stepped forward, placed her hands on either side of the case, and adjusted it just a little. Perfect. She stepped back and looked around. The crooked case straightened, the injustice confronted, the values reaffirmed. It felt symbolic. An elderly woman approached her, someone who had been quietly watching the entire scene from the start. Ma'am, she said, her voice warm and full of admiration. What you've built here is amazing. And the way you handled this, with grace, that's rare. Diana smiled. A real smile. One that started in her eyes and reached all the way to her soul. Grace isn't always easy, she said, but it's always necessary. Kevin, still finding his footing as manager, walked over and asked the question that had been burning in his mind. How did you stay so calm? He asked. Through all of that, Diana looked at him thoughtful. Because how I respond defines me, Kevin. Not their actions. I could have yelled. I could have snapped. But that wouldn't have made me right. It just would have made me loud. She stepped toward one of the customers who was still holding up a phone, still recording, and looked directly into the lens. I didn't build this company to prove I belonged somewhere, she said. I built it to create spaces where everyone belongs. Then she touched the bracelet on her wrist. A tarnished silver chain, simple and old, the same one she'd worn through poverty, through rejection, through every uphill battle. This bracelet, she said, holding it up, survived poverty, discrimination, loss. It reminds me every day, real value isn't about what people see. It's about what you carry inside. She turned back toward the Aurora collection. Her hands moved with care, rearranging each necklace, each ring, each bracelet. Not just fixing what was crooked, but restoring balance. Success isn't just about reaching the top, she said softly, almost to herself. It's about who you choose to be when you get there. The store had fully returned to normal now. Kevin was helping customers. Ashley was assisting with a client who'd seen the whole situation and now wanted to buy the exact necklace Diana had praised earlier. Marcus stood near the door, watching with a protective eye, his posture steady. Diana looked around once more. At the space she had designed, the people she had hired, and the moment that had tested every principle she had built the company on. And she knew this was what she had worked for. Not the money, not the magazine covers, but this. Creating a space where people could feel safe, valued, and seen. Where respect wasn't earned, it was automatic. Where no one else would ever be told they didn't belong. The air in the store had shifted. It no longer buzzed with tension. It pulsed with purpose. Customers continued to browse, but now with a deeper sense of connection to the brand, as if they hadn't just walked into a jewelry store, but a movement. A place where the sparkle in the display cases wasn't just from diamonds, it was from values being lived out in real time. Diana remained at the Aurora display for a few more moments, carefully placing each piece back in perfect alignment. She knew every curve of every diamond, not because she owned them, but because she had approved them, inspected them, loved them. This was her art, her legacy, and today it had been tested, not by competition, not by profit loss, but by prejudice, and she had met that test with composure and resolve. As she stepped back from the display, she could feel the room watching her, not out of curiosity now, but out of admiration. Diana moved toward the front counter where Kevin was still on the phone with HR. He straightened as she approached. "I've got them confirming everything now, Ms. Mitchell," he said. "Good," she nodded. "Make sure Patricia's termination is handled respectfully. No commentary. No gossip." Kevin nodded. "Of course." "And your promotion?" she asked with a raised brow. He hesitated. "They said they'd fast-track it as of today. I'll need to fill out some paperwork, but it's happening." Diana smiled. "Well deserved." Ashley, who had just finished helping a customer select a ring from the Soleil collection, walked over, still looking like she couldn't believe any of this was real. I just wanted to say thank you," she said, her voice a mix of nerves and gratitude. "No," Diana said, "thank you. You made a choice today, Ashley. One a lot of people are too afraid to make." Ashley's voice cracked. "I just kept thinking, if that had been my mom or my sister." Diana reached out and gently touched her arm. "That's what makes you a leader." Ashley beamed, wiping the corner of her eye. Marcus remained near the door, now giving the occasional nod or welcome in to new customers, but every few minutes his eyes returned to Diana, like he was still on alert, not out of fear, but from a deep sense of duty. Diana approached him. "You good?" she asked. He gave her a quiet smile. "Better than I've been in a long time." She nodded. "Your instincts were sharp today. I trust them." "Appreciate that," he replied. "A lot." And he meant it. For a man who had served in the military, who had worked security for people who never remembered his name being seen and respected by someone like Diana, meant something. It meant everything. Just then, one of the customers, a middle-aged woman with an iPhone still recording, spoke up from a few feet away. "Ms. Mitchell?" she asked hesitantly. Diana turned to her with a warm but curious look. "I just wanted to say—" The woman paused, searching for the right words. "I came in here to look for a bracelet for my daughter's graduation. I didn't expect to witness what I did today. But watching you, how you carried yourself, how you defended what's right, it reminded me of the kind of woman I hope my daughter grows up to be." Diana's smile was soft but steady. "Thank you," she said. "That means more than you know." The woman nodded, then added, "I think I found the right gift after all," and held up the bracelet she had chosen. Diana leaned over to glance at it and smiled even wider. It was one of the early, luminous designs, one she had drawn by hand back when the company was still just her and a sketchbook in her apartment. "Perfect choice," she said. The customer walked toward checkout, and the mood in the store became lighter, like the storm had passed and left behind something stronger, something better. Diana stepped back toward the center of the showroom and looked around at the people who had made it through the fire with her. Her team, her customers, her store. She didn't say anything grand. She didn't make a speech. Instead, She simply took a deep breath and exhaled. A long, slow release of everything she'd been holding in since the moment Patricia had dismissed her with that fake smile. It was over now. Justice had been served not in rage or revenge, but in clarity and principle. And that was exactly how Diana had always intended to run her company. She checked her watch, 11:42 a.m. Still early. Still a full day ahead. Kevin, she said, turning to the new manager. Yeah, take over. I'm heading to the Manhattan location this afternoon. Kevin blinked. Today? She smirked. Surprise visits don't stop just because Beverly Hills needed a wake-up call. He laughed nervously. Yes, ma'am. She turned to Ashley. Keep an eye on the Aurora display. Walk the floor like I'd want you to. Ashley nodded. You got it. Then Diana moved to the back room, grabbed her bag, and walked toward the door. Marcus stepped aside and opened it for her. Thank you, Marcus, she said. Any time, he replied. And Ms. Mitchell, she paused. Just thank you. For today, for everything. She nodded once and stepped out onto Rodeo Drive. The sun was still shining. Tourists still bustled on the sidewalk. And her old Civic sat calmly at the curb, waiting like a loyal friend. She got in, buckled her seatbelt, and pulled away from the storefront. No press release, no red carpet. Just another day in the life of a woman who had built her dream and protected it with everything she had. Diana's 2003 Honda Civic hummed steadily as it rolled away from the chaos she had just left behind. To the casual eye, she looked like any other woman cruising through the sunny streets of Beverly Hills. No one could have guessed that she had just fired a manager in one of the highest performing retail stores in her company, or that she was the CEO of the entire Luminous Designs empire. That car, that bracelet on her wrist, they were her symbols, symbols of every chapter she'd survived, every boardroom she'd walked into, and been underestimated in every storefront she'd built from the ground up. She could have had a driver, a Tesla, a private jet if she wanted. But Diana wasn't interested in looking rich. She was interested in building meaning. Her phone buzzed on the seat beside her. It was a message from her assistant board unanimously approved your decisions. Press team on standby. Do you want to release a statement? Diana tapped back a quick reply. Not yet. Let the story speak for itself. She wasn't worried about controlling the narrative. That moment, captured on half a dozen smartphones and now flying across the internet, was the narrative. People weren't going to forget what they'd seen in that store, and she didn't want them to. Not because she wanted to embarrass Patricia or make a viral moment out of someone's downfall, but because she knew that for every Diana Mitchell out there quietly fighting to be respected, there were dozens of Patricia Whitmans making the world harder than it had to be. And people needed to see what happened when those two forces finally collided. As she waited at a red light, Diana opened her company's Slack app and dropped a message into the executive leadership channel. Today was a test, and we passed it barely. We don't build our brand on the brilliance of our diamonds, we build it on the brilliance of our people. We don't tolerate discrimination, not from customers, not from managers, not from anyone. Let this be a reminder. Our values are not suggestions. They're the blueprint. And anyone who forgets that will not lead in this company. Period. She hit send and smiled slightly to herself. A moment later, a flood of reactions appeared. Green check marks, heart emojis, responses from regional directors around the country pledging retraining, revisiting hiring protocols, reinforcing the message at the ground level. Diana knew she didn't need to micromanage. One viral moment could do more to shift culture than 100 memos. As she made her way toward the highway that would take her to the airport for her afternoon flight, she thought back to the moment she had looked Patricia in the eyes and said, "This store isn't yours." It hadn't been about ego. It had been about reminding people this wasn't just another job. It was a place built with purpose, sweat, and the unwavering belief that luxury didn't need to be exclusionary. That class and kindness could coexist. Meanwhile, back at the Beverly Hills store, Kevin was stepping into his new role with a level of calm he didn't know he had. He was still shaken. Who wouldn't be? But he remembered the way Diana had spoken to him. Clear, respectful, trusting. He gathered the team for a quick huddle in the staff break room. Ashley, Marcus, and the rest of the floor team joined him. "Okay, Team Kevin," began, voice firm but friendly. "Today wasn't easy. And I know we're all still a little stunned by what just happened." They nodded, the memory of Patricia's breakdown still fresh in the room. "But here's the truth," he continued. "This company just put its faith in us, in you. Diana Mitchell just told the world we're the standard. So starting right now, we're going to live up to that." Ashley raised her hand hesitantly. "What if the media comes in? What if people ask questions?" Kevin took a breath. "You stay professional. Be honest, but don't gossip. Just say the CEO handled it and the company stands by their values. That's it." Marcus chimed in. "And if anyone crosses a line, I'll handle it." Kevin grinned. "That's why you're getting a commendation." The team laughed lightly, breaking the tension even if just a little. Then Kevin looked around the room, locking eyes with each person. "I want you all to know something. I may be the manager now, but I'm not above anyone here. If you see something, say something. We lead together. That's how Diana built this company. That's how we'll keep it going." Ashley wiped away another tear, smiling this time. Marcus nodded. "We've got your back, boss." The huddle broke, and the team got back to work. But the energy in the store had changed. Customers noticed it too. There was more warmth, more sincerity in every interaction. You could feel the heartbeat of luminous designs coming back to life, stronger, clearer, more aligned than ever. Across town, Patricia sat in her car in a grocery store parking lot, her box of belongings in the passenger seat, still trying to process the crater she had left behind. She wasn't thinking about jewelry, or profit margins, or daily sales goals. She was thinking about the look on Diana's face. The look of someone who had been disrespected and had responded with nothing but strength. "I didn't know," she whispered again, as if saying it out loud might change the ending. But it wouldn't, and somewhere deep inside, she finally understood what Diana had meant. It wasn't just about knowing someone's title. It was about respecting them before you knew it. Patricia started the car and pulled away, not knowing what her future held, but fully aware she'd never forget the name Diana Mitchell for the rest of her life. Back on the road, Diana's phone rang. Caller ID: Grandma's house, Atlanta. She tapped her earpiece and answered. "Hi, Nana." Her grandmother's familiar voice came through warm and slightly teasing. "So what's this I hear about my baby girl firing someone on Rodeo Drive and going viral?" Diana laughed softly, the sound of it washing away the weight of the day. Just another day in the office. Diana's grandmother chuckled through the speaker, the kind of laugh that wraps around your heart like a quilt. "Well, baby, I always told you. Grace doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It means showing them who you are, without ever having to raise your voice." Diana smiled as she changed lanes on the highway. "That's exactly what I did, Nana. I kept my voice steady. Let my values do the talking. You let that woman bury herself with her own words," her grandmother said. "And you still walked away with your head high. That's how I raised you." Diana's eyes misted for a moment. "You did more than raise me. You gave me the blueprint." There was a pause on the other end. "You still wear it?" Nana asked softly. Diana looked down at her wrist, the tarnished silver bracelet glinting in the sunlight. "Every day." Her grandmother sighed, filled with pride. "Good. Because that bracelet, it's not about what we didn't have. It's about the strength you found when no one gave you anything. It's about surviving, then thriving. Diana felt her shoulders relax. For all the praise she'd gotten today, that was the one voice that still centered her. Thanks, Nana, she whispered. I needed that. After a few more minutes of warm conversation, Diana ended the call as she pulled into the small airport that handled her company's regional flights. The Manhattan store was next. Another surprise visit. Another chance to make sure her foundation held strong. She didn't do it because she didn't trust her team. She did it because she believed in them and wanted to keep reminding them what the brand stood for. Not just in ads or slogans, but in every real moment that unfolded inside those glass doors. Back in Beverly Hills, the store was humming along like nothing had happened, at least on the surface. But to those inside, everything had changed. Ashley was helping a newly engaged couple choose a ring. The groom-to-be was the nervous one, stammering over clarity ratings and carat weights. Ashley, with her usual kindness, explained everything with the same care Diana had once taken to inspect a diamond setting. Marcus, ever vigilant, walked the floor with quiet purpose, gently guiding a young tourist away from leaning too hard into a display case. He didn't bark orders or intimidate. He simply made the customer feel respected and aware. Kevin was on the phone with HR again, finalizing the updates to everyone's files and sending out notes to district managers about team meetings to reinforce inclusion and service excellence. The team worked with pride. They weren't just employees anymore. They were protectors of a legacy, and that legacy had a name. Elsewhere, the videos had begun to trend online. Clips titled CEO Gets Mistaken for Thief and Manager, Tries to Kick Out Black Customer. Then she finds out who she really is, flooded social media platforms. People from all walks of life watched in stunned silence as the videos played out. Comments poured in. This is why leadership matters. She didn't just own the store, she owned the moment. She didn't scream. She didn't throw a tantrum. She just showed who she was. That's power. Diana Mitchell is a masterclass in Grace Under Fire. The story wasn't just about a jewelry store anymore. It had become a symbol, a message, and people were listening. Diana didn't respond to the coverage. She didn't release a statement. She didn't need to, because real actions, spoke louder than any press release. In Manhattan, just a few hours later, Diana walked quietly into the Fifth Avenue Luminous Designs location. She didn't announce herself. She never did. And just like that, a new day began. Same woman, same mission. She moved through the store, unnoticed at first, scanning the floor, observing everything from the way associates greeted customers to how displays were arranged. This store was sharp, efficient, well kept. But even here, Diana caught the smallest imperfections: dust on a glass shelf, a ring positioned slightly off-center. She straightened it. Old habits. Her bracelet clicked gently against the case. And then a young employee, barely 20, clearly new, walked up to her with a kind smile. Hi there. Can I help you find anything today? Diana turned to her, smiled back, and said the exact words she'd spoken earlier that day in Beverly Hills. Yes, I'd like to see the Aurora collection. The associate nodded, no hesitation. Of course, she said. Follow me. And that was it. No judgment, no questions. Just service delivered with care. And Diana followed her, knowing that in that small moment, everything she'd worked for was still intact, still alive, still worth fighting for. Back in Beverly Hills, the crooked display case that had caught Diana's attention that morning remained perfectly straight, a silent symbol of what had been corrected, not just in glass and metal, but in people's hearts and actions. The store's reputation didn't fall that day. It rose, because in the face of prejudice, one woman didn't raise her voice. She raised the standard. If this story moved you, if you believe in standing up for dignity, for grace, and for the power of leading by example, make sure to subscribe for more stories just like this. Drop a comment below and let us know what Diana's story meant to you. And remember, true power doesn't come from position. It comes from purpose. We'll see you in the next one.